When I first married James, I thought life would be simple, full of love, and maybe a little bit of compromise, like all marriages are. He was charming, kind, and incredibly attentive in those early days. I was drawn to his gentle smile and the way he seemed to carry the weight of the world yet still managed to laugh at the little things. But I had no idea what kind of journey I was truly stepping into, and how far that journey would test the very limits of what it means to be a wife, a daughter-in-law, and most importantly, a human being. James's father, Robert, was a man of strong presence. When I met him for the first time, he was already in his late 60s, tall with graying hair, and with a stern look that seemed to carry both wisdom and stubbornness. He wasn't unkind, but he had this air about him that made you feel small if you weren't careful. He had worked his entire life as a carpenter, raising James and his younger sister, Emily, after their mother passed away when they were very young. From what I gathered, Robert had been both mother and father to them, and James carried a deep loyalty toward him because of it. That loyalty, though, would become the center of everything that was to follow. When Robert's health started to decline, James became more anxious. His father had been diagnosed with congestive heart failure, and while treatments helped, it was clear his health would never fully recover. He moved in with us after his condition worsened. At first, I didn't mind. After all, he was James's father, and he deserved to be taken care of with dignity. I prepared meals for him, made sure he took his medication on time, and even tried to engage him in conversations when he was up for it. But soon, things began to change. Robert was proud, maybe too proud, and he didn't want to feel like a burden. He refused professional help and insisted that family was enough to care for him. That sounded noble, but in practice, it meant that almost all the responsibility fell on me, because James was often busy with work. I found myself waking up in the middle of the night to help Robert when he was short of breath, cleaning up after him when he had accidents, and constantly being on edge, waiting for the next emergency. One night, after a particularly exhausting day, James sat me down. His eyes were heavy, filled with both love for me and desperation for his father. "Sarah," he said softly, reaching for my hand, "I need to ask you for something. Something I know isn't fair." I frowned, already feeling my chest tighten. "What is it, James?" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "My dad, he doesn't want strangers around. No nurses, no caregivers. He only trusts us. But I can't be here all the time. He needs more care than I can give. I need you to step up for him, for us. Please." He raised me, sacrificed everything. I owe him this. We owe him this. I stared at him, my heart pounding. I loved James deeply, but what he was asking wasn't just a small favor, it was a life-changing responsibility. "James, I'm already doing so much. I'm exhausted. I'm not a nurse. What if something happens and I can't handle it?" His voice cracked with emotion. "Then at least he'll have family by his side. That's what matters most to him. Please, Sarah. I don't know what else to do." And that was the moment I couldn't believe what my husband was asking me to do. He was asking me to put my entire life, my health, my sanity on hold to care for his father in ways I wasn't trained for, in ways that broke me down day by day. I wanted to refuse. Every fiber of my body wanted to scream that it wasn't fair, that I couldn't bear that kind of weight alone. But when I looked into James's pleading eyes, when I saw the tears brimming at the corners, I couldn't say no. Love does strange things to us. It makes us sacrifice more than we ever thought we could. The weeks that followed blurred together. I became Robert's primary caregiver. I learned how to check his blood pressure, how to administer his medications correctly, how to help him bathe with dignity, and how to feed him when he was too weak to lift a spoon. My days revolved around his needs, and my nights were haunted by the fear that he might not make it through until morning. There were moments of tenderness. Robert wasn't a man of many words, but sometimes, late at night, he would look at me with weary eyes and whisper, "Thank you, Sarah. You're stronger than you think." Those moments softened me, made me feel like maybe all this sacrifice had a purpose. But there were also moments of anger. Times when he would refuse to eat, lash out in frustration, or demand things that were impossible. I felt invisible, trapped in a cycle of caregiving that seemed endless. James tried to help when he could, but his job consumed him, and more often than not, I was left alone to carry the burden. One evening, after Robert had a particularly rough day, I broke down in the kitchen. Tears poured down my face as I gripped the counter, feeling like I couldn't breathe. James walked in and froze when he saw me. For a moment, he looked guilty, like he finally realized what this was doing to me. He pulled me into his arms, whispering, "I'm sorry, Sarah. I know this is killing you inside. But I don't know what else to do. He's my dad." I wanted to be angry at him, but instead, I just sobbed into his chest. Because I knew, deep down, that if it were my father, I would want the same thing. And that's the cruel truth of love, it demands more from us than we sometimes think we can give. Months passed. Robert's condition worsened, and eventually, hospice care was suggested by his doctors. At first, James resisted, clinging to his father's wishes. But I think he finally saw what it was doing to me. One night, he took my hands and said, "I can't keep asking you to give up your life for this. It's time we let professionals step in. You've already done more than anyone could have asked." When hospice came, I felt a mix of relief and guilt. Relief because the weight was finally shared, and guilt because part of me had wanted this for so long. Robert passed peacefully a few weeks later, surrounded by family, with his hand in James's and mine. After the funeral, as we sat quietly in our living room, James turned to me with tears in his eyes. "Sarah, I'll never forget what you did for him, for me. You gave him dignity, love, and comfort when he needed it most. I know it wasn't fair, but you carried us through it. You're the reason I was able to say goodbye to him the way I did." In that moment, I realized something important. Sometimes love isn't about what's fair. Sometimes it's about sacrifice, about giving pieces of yourself you never thought you could, just to make someone else's burden lighter. It wasn't easy, and I'll never pretend it was. But as I looked at James, I knew that, despite everything, I would make the same choice again. Because love, at its core, is about standing by each other even when the weight feels impossible to carry. And that's the story of how my husband asked me to give everything for his father, and how, in the end, it shaped not just our marriage, but the way I understand love, family, and the meaning of sacrifice.